Welcome, the anointed ones. Some people will research your birth chart, your bloodline, and your body language, just to figure out why God favors you. They don't know what you did. They just know you weren't supposed to survive the fire, and now you walk around like the flames baptized you. Let's be real. You're not trending, you're haunting them. They stalk you like you owe them answers. They talk about you like you cast a spell. They smile at you, but behind closed doors they're like, who is this person? And why can't I stop thinking about them? Here's the wild part. A 2023 psychological study found that the most unforgettable people aren't the loudest. They're the ones who made others feel exposed without even trying. That's you. You didn't just enter their life. You rewired their perception. They can't figure out if you're the villain, the prophet, or a government experiment. Meanwhile, you're over here minding your business and trying to figure out if it's safe to eat bread again. But let's make one thing clear. They're not crazy for you because of how you look. They're crazy from you because of what your presence triggered in them. So buckle up, because in this video, we're going to break down exactly why everyone's obsessed, disturbed, and spiritually addicted to your existence, and why they'll never recover from crossing paths with you. Let's get into it. Number 1, you carry an energy that memory can't erase. People can't forget you, and it's not because of something you said or did. It's because of something much deeper, the way your energy stamped itself onto their soul. You didn't just pass through their life. You left an invisible mark. That moment you walked into the room, into their story, something shifted, even if they didn't fully understand it at the time. Days, months, even years can go by, and they'll still catch themselves thinking about you out of nowhere. Not because they want to, but because your presence activated something inside of them that can't be undone. Most people meet others, have a few conversations, maybe a connection or two, and then move on. But with you, it was different. You stirred something. You didn't try to be memorable. You just were. And that's what haunts them. They can't explain it. You weren't the loudest in the room. You didn't chase validation. You didn't put on a performance. But your authenticity, your stillness, your essence, it disrupted their programming. Your vibe carried truth. And truth doesn't get forgotten. Not in a world built on illusion. Some of them only interacted with you briefly, but that short moment hit deeper than years they spent with others. That's the mystery they're wrestling with. They've spent their whole lives sizing people up based on appearances, resumes, charm. But you broke that whole system. You didn't check any of their boxes, and yet you became the blueprint for a connection they didn't know was possible. That alone drives people crazy. What's even crazier is how your absence feels heavier than most people's presence. You walked away, or maybe life moved you elsewhere. And yet it feels like there's a piece of them still orbiting around your memory. You didn't demand space in their life, but you took space in their mind. That's power, not the fake kind that manipulates or coerces, but real power, the kind that can't be bought, explained, or erased. And the wildest part? You weren't even trying to be unforgettable. You were just being yourself. That's why they're obsessed. Not because you tried to impress, but because your soul left fingerprints on places they didn't even know existed. Number 2, your life activated their dormant demons. Some people didn't know how broken they were until they met you. You walked into their life with a certain calmness, clarity, or light that triggered something they didn't even know was hiding in them. At first, they were drawn to you, intrigued by your spirit, maybe even inspired. But then something shifted. They started acting strange, jealous, irritated for no reason. They blamed you for things you didn't say or do. The truth is, your energy didn't harm them. It revealed them. Being around you brought their suppressed insecurities, bitterness, and darkness to the surface, and that's exactly why they can't forget you. You were the spiritual smoke detector in the room. Your presence sounded the silent alarm. You didn't preach, correct, or call them out. You simply existed. And that was enough to expose everything they thought they had buried. They couldn't hide their envy, their fake confidence, their need for control. It all started leaking through their words, their attitude, and their actions. They couldn't understand why they felt so uneasy around someone who had done nothing wrong. But you felt like truth, and truth can't be tolerated by those living in denial. This is why they act like they hate you, but secretly can't stop watching you. It's why they want to be near you, but also can't stand you. It's not because you're toxic. It's because they are spiritually unwell, and your presence was the mirror. You showed them everything they weren't ready to heal. You didn't trigger their anger. You triggered their self-hatred. You didn't cause their confusion. You awakened the part of them they've been trying to silence for years. What messes with their mind the most is how calm you remain while they're falling apart inside. You don't argue, beg, or explain yourself, and that makes their inner chaos even louder. You've become the reminder of the emotional and spiritual work they refuse to do. That's why they obsess. That's why they spiral. That's why they talk about you constantly, trying to understand what you did to them. The truth is, you didn't do anything to them. You just showed up. And your presence alone forced their shadows out of hiding. Number 3, they can't define you, so they demonize you. You confuse people, and that drives them mad. They can't pin you down, can't label you, can't decide if you're a genius, a threat, or something otherworldly. They try to figure you out like a puzzle, but every time they think they've got you, you reveal another layer they weren't ready for. That's why they talk. That's why they lie. That's why they twist your name into something it's not. Because deep down, they know you're not like anyone they've ever met. And that scares them more than they'll ever admit. You don't fit the boxes they've spent their whole lives creating. You don't act like the people they're used to. You don't play the roles they expect. They don't know if you're spiritual or street, quiet or powerful, soft or unbreakable. And the truth is, you're all of those things. You're multi-layered. And that makes them uncomfortable because most people are used to surfaces. You move differently, you respond with intention, you see through things, you say less. But when you speak, it cuts deep. And when someone can't define you, they start feeling powerless around you. So what do? They try to control the narrative. If they can't define you, they'll try to destroy your image. They'll make up stories. They'll project their own issues onto you. They'll exaggerate moments, twist your silence into arrogance, and label your peace as manipulation. Not because it's true, but because it helps them feel less exposed. When someone can't figure you out, they'll often choose to villainize you. It's easier to make you the problem than to admit they feel small in your presence. The irony is, you probably didn't even do much. You were just existing. You didn't show up to be praised or feared. You were just being yourself. But in a world full of copies, your authenticity felt like a threat. You didn't compete, but you made them feel like they were losing. And now they're trying to protect their ego by turning people against you. Because if they can't understand you, they'd rather control how others see you. That's how deep their fear runs. You didn't ask for this attention, but you got it. Not because of what you did, but because of who you are. Number 4, you're not what happened to you. You're what survived it. You've been through things that would have destroyed most people. And the fact that you're still standing, still thinking, still creating, still showing up, confuses the hell out of them. They saw what you went through. Maybe they even helped cause it. They were sure you'd never recover. In their minds, no one could go through that kind of betrayal, isolation, abandonment, humiliation, or spiritual warfare and still come out whole. But you did. Not just whole, evolved. That's why they can't stop watching you. They don't understand how someone could survive what you did and not be bitter, lost, or broken. What they don't realize is you did break, but not in the way they expected. You broke patterns. You broke generational curses. You broke out of cycles meant to keep you small. The old version of you didn't make it, and that was the point. What's walking around today is not the same person who went through that pain. You became someone stronger, wiser, more spiritually aligned, and completely unpredictable. That's what's blowing their minds. You didn't just survive. You transformed. Most people let pain shrink them. They carry it like a permanent wound, but you used pain like a compass. You let every betrayal teach you what loyalty really means. Every loss taught you detachment. Every dark night sharpened your intuition. You didn't walk away empty. You walked away equipped. And now your resilience speaks louder than any revenge ever could. That's what's driving them crazy. You're walking around with your head held high, like you didn't just survive the unthinkable. They know what they did. They know what they said. They know how deep the setup was. So how are you still glowing? How are you still at peace? How are you not locked up, laid out, or in some institution like they expected? They're obsessed not because you're famous or flashy, but because you're proof that miracles are real. You carry the kind of strength that can't be bought, taught, or faked. You didn't just survive. You became someone unrecognizable to the pain that tried to kill you. And now they can't stop staring, because your existence exposes how weak their attacks really were. Number 5. Your silence isn't quiet. It's data they can't access. Your silence is not emptiness. It is loaded. It is layered. It is intentional. People are not disturbed because you are quiet. They are disturbed because they know your quietness holds something they cannot reach. Your silence carries energy, meaning, and weight that unsettles them. They do not know what you are thinking, what you are planning, or what you truly see, and that drives them insane. You are not loud. You do not announce every move. You do not beg for validation. But somehow, without saying a word, you shift the atmosphere. They are used to people who over-explain, who overshare, who spill their entire strategy in desperation to be liked. But you say less and still command more attention. Your stillness makes people feel exposed, because when you do not speak, they are left alone with their assumptions, and their assumptions start revealing more about them than about you. That is when paranoia sets in. That is when obsession begins. People start wondering, what do they know? What did they see? Why are they not reacting? Why are they so calm? Because in their world, silence equals weakness. But in yours, silence is dominion. You do not need to shout when you already see the entire board. Your silence becomes data they cannot decode. Every pause, every step back, every refusal to engage feels like strategy, and it is. You have learned that speaking too much reveals your hand. You have learned that quietness keeps your power protected. Your stillness is not passive, it is encrypted wisdom. They want access to what is going on in your mind because deep down they know your silence is not random. It is refined, it is trained, it is sacred. They gossip to fill the gap your silence creates. They invent stories to feel like they still have some form of control, but they do not. They are haunted because they do not have the real data. And when they cannot figure you out, they start fearing what you are capable of. That is the truth. Your silence terrifies them not because it hides nothing, but because it hides everything that matters. Number 6. You radiate a God frequency they've never felt before. There is something about your presence that doesn't make sense to them, and it's not just because you're kind, smart, or attractive. They've met charming people before. They've seen beauty. They've worked with intelligent minds, but none of those encounters ever shook them the way you did. Because with you, it wasn't about personality. It was about presence. You carried something spiritual, something divine, something ancient. And the moment they came into contact with it, they felt it, deep in their body. Even if they couldn't explain it with words, their spirit recognized it immediately. This person is not ordinary. You operate on a higher frequency, a God frequency. You don't just speak wisdom, you embody it. You move with peace, but not the fake kind that people use to avoid conflict. Yours is rooted, yours is earned. Yours is the type that can't be disrupted by noise, drama, or manipulation. And that kind of peace exposes everything chaotic in others. You walk into a space and suddenly people start feeling insecure, nervous, or strangely emotional. Not because you did anything, but because the vibration you carry disturbs everything unhealed in them. You were sent into environments that were dark, toxic, or spiritually dry, not to blend in, but to raise the frequency. People sense this but don't know how to label it, so they try to downplay it, romanticize it, or worse, attack it. But none of that changes the truth. You carry something from the source. You carry something eternal. And when someone who is out of alignment with themselves encounters that kind of energy, it forces a response. Either they elevate or they reject you. There is no neutral. Some people started questioning their entire belief system after meeting you. You didn't quote scriptures. You didn't preach. You didn't force anything. But your essence, the calm in your eyes, the depth in your voice, the knowing in your silence, made them wonder, how do they know things they've never been taught? You are a living contradiction to what the world told them is possible. That's why they can't get you out of their head. You weren't just a person. You were a frequency shift. You were proof that divinity walks in human form. Number 7, you made them feel seen, and then starved their illusion. You made people feel something they hadn't felt in a long time. Seen, and not just noticed or complimented, but deeply felt, like someone had finally recognized the parts of them they'd buried. For a while, they basked in your light, mistaking your genuine attention for worship. They confused your empathy for admiration, your presence for permission to keep performing. You didn't flatter them, but you understood them. And for a moment, that made them feel alive, relevant, and important, like they finally mattered. But then came the shift. You saw through them. Not just the version they wanted you to see, but the one they try to hide even from themselves. The ego, the lies, the emptiness behind their confidence. You clocked it without ever calling it out. And when you pulled back, when you stopped feeding the illusion, their mask started slipping. They thought your absence was just distance, but it was deeper than that. You were the only thing keeping their fake image alive. And when you left, the fantasy began to collapse. That's when they started spiraling. Not because you said something hurtful, not because you exposed them publicly, but because you stopped supplying them with the energy that made them feel real. Your presence was their favorite drug. It made them feel valuable, whole, admired. But it wasn't real value. It was borrowed light. And when you stopped offering it, they were left with the truth of who they really are. The pain wasn't in losing you. It was in being left alone with themselves. That's the part they'll never say out loud. You didn't do anything to them. You simply stopped doing for them what they were too afraid to do for themselves, which was look in the mirror and face the truth. Your ability to see people beyond the surface is rare. But your ability to walk away when the illusion starts demanding more than your soul is willing to give, that's divine. And now, the same people who felt so seen in your presence are crumbling in your absence, because they're realizing the version of themselves they loved most only existed around you. Number 8, you didn't just disrupt their routine, you shattered their identity. You did not just show up and slightly inconvenience people. You came into their lives and changed the entire temperature. The way you spoke, the way you saw through things, the way you moved. It forced people to face parts of themselves they had been avoiding for years. They had built their entire identity on performance, on control, on carefully curated masks. But your presence cracked those masks without effort. Not because you were trying to expose them, but because truth has a way of disrupting anything built on lies. You did not simply rearrange their comfort zone. You set it on fire. You didn't go along with their fake peace. You didn't play into their ego games. You didn't pretend not to notice their inconsistencies. You saw it all. And that level of awareness is dangerous to people who survive by pretending. You held up a mirror, not out of judgment, but out of spiritual clarity. And what they saw in that reflection made them uncomfortable, because it was real. No filter, no performance, just raw identity they didn't know how to handle. They started feeling exposed, vulnerable, powerless. And that created a shift inside of them they didn't expect. At first it felt like discomfort, then it turned into resistance, and eventually it turned into obsession. Not because they hate you, not because they love you, but because they are haunted by the version of themselves they met in your presence. You forced them to feel what it is like to be seen without manipulation, to be known without effort. And now, nothing else compares. That kind of experience leaves a scar. Not a physical one, but a deep emotional imprint. You were not just another connection. You were a turning point, a soul jolt, an interruption to everything fake they had built to survive. And even if they never say it, you changed something in them. They may try to bury it, mock it or deny it, but the truth is they are still trying to rebuild an identity that can survive what your presence revealed. That is why they cannot stop thinking about you. You are not just a person. You are a revelation, and revelations do not go away quietly. Number 9. They don't want you. They want what you awaken in them. This part hurts them more than they'll ever admit. They never truly wanted you. They wanted the version of themselves they saw when they were around you. You unlocked something in them, a part they buried, a version they forgot existed. Being in your presence reminded them of everything they had silenced to survive, their creativity, their voice, their purpose, their power. You didn't give it to them, you simply activated it. And now that you're gone, they feel the emptiness again, and it's eating them alive. They said they were attracted to you. They claimed it was love. But if you really look deeper, it wasn't love. It was longing. You reminded them of everything they could be if they weren't afraid, if they hadn't settled, if they had just said no, if they had faced their demons. You were living proof that someone could come out of the fire stronger, that someone could live with integrity, speak truth, and move with purpose, even with a past. And that shattered their internal excuses. You represented the road they were too scared to take, the healed version of what they abandoned. And now they watch you with fascination, but also frustration. They cheer for you, but also resent you, because you're doing what they were too afraid to do. And they feel that deeply. It's not about attraction, it's about awakening. You woke them up to the fact that their life is not aligned with their soul. That's why they can't stop watching, stalking, comparing, and analyzing you. They are trying to figure out how you did it, how you broke free, how you stayed true. But here's the truth. It wasn't a secret. It was courage. It was choosing truth over comfort. It was going inward when everything outside was falling apart. And they know that. Deep down, they know that's what it takes. But it's easier to project love or hate onto you than to take responsibility for the part of themselves they've neglected. So no, they don't really want you. They want what you represent. And that realization, though quiet, haunts them every day. Number 10. Your very existence shatters their illusion of superiority. They wanted to believe they were better than you. They needed to. It made them feel safe, in control, untouchable. They told themselves you were beneath them, not smart enough, not polished enough, not important enough. They sized you up through shallow lenses, judging your background, your quietness, your struggles. But what they didn't see was your depth, your spirit, your divine assignment. You weren't loud, but you were chosen. And now that truth is burning through every lie they told themselves about you. Life has a brutal way of humbling people who misjudge what they don't understand. The same ones who look down on you are now watching you rise in ways they can't explain. They mocked your silence, but now you move with a confidence they can't match. They laughed at your pain, but now you wear wisdom like armor. They dismissed your presence, and now they can't stop obsessing over it. That is what breaks them. Not just your elevation, but the fact that it happened after they left you for dead. You didn't just survive what they threw at you, you flourished. And not through revenge, noise, or drama, but through alignment. You stayed connected to something higher, while they stayed connected to ego. And now they're watching you become the person they swore you'd never be. That shakes their entire sense of superiority, because it proves that the power they thought they had over you was an illusion from the start. They wonder how someone they underestimated could carry so much weight, so much presence, so much influence, without even trying. They wonder how the person they gossiped about, excluded, or sabotaged became someone so unstoppable, and it eats at them. Because now, they're forced to face a truth they never wanted to accept. You were never beneath them. They just lacked the vision to see who you really were. That's why they can't look you in the eye now. That's why they're suddenly quiet. Not because they're over it, but because your presence makes their false sense of power collapse. You shattered their illusion by simply existing. With grace, resilience, and anointing they will never be able to copy or comprehend. Number 11. Your story has become their religion, secretly. They will never say it out loud, but your story has become the blueprint they keep returning to. Your journey is the sermon they never asked for, but cannot stop studying. They watch your life unfold in silence, taking mental notes, replaying your decisions, your moves, your strength, not to celebrate you, but to understand how someone like you made it through what was supposed to destroy you. They were convinced you would fade away, break down, give up. Instead, you evolved, and now they are addicted to your resilience. Your name gets whispered more than you know, in private conversations, in group chats, in places you will likely never step foot into. You are the topic that gets passed around like a secret, one that carries weight. They say they do not care. They pretend they do not watch. But you are the silent comparison in their minds when they measure themselves against who they used to be and who they still cannot become. Your story confronts them. Your growth shames their stagnancy. Your presence, even from a distance, disrupts the lie they tell themselves about who holds the real power. They study you like a myth. They follow your updates like scripture. They track your wins, your movements, your glow-up, trying to decode your survival, your success, your peace. Not because they support you, but because they secretly want your formula. They want to know how you are still standing, still creating, still thriving, when life threw everything at you, and deep down, they know the answer. You were built different. You were anointed for this. But admitting that would shatter the illusion they have of themselves, so they keep you close in silence and far in public. You became the example they did not know they needed. The living proof that healing is possible, that integrity wins, that the ones who were overlooked can become the ones everyone studies later. They do not post about you. They do not clap for you. But your life plays on repeat in their minds. Because every time they think they have moved on from who you are, they are reminded, you were the divine interruption they cannot erase. Number 12. They think you know a secret. But you are the secret. They keep trying to figure you out, like there's some hidden formula you're using to stay ahead. They think you're holding on to some secret, a life hack, a connection, a shortcut, and they're obsessed with unlocking it. But the truth is, there is no secret. There's just you, your essence, your energy, your soul. That's what they're really after, even if they can't put it into words. You don't have the answer. You are the answer. And that's what drives them absolutely mad. They study the way you walk into rooms, how people respond to you, how you stay grounded when everything's chaotic. They pay attention to your timing, your discipline, your glow. They think, there's got to be something behind all of this. But no matter how hard they try, they can't figure out what makes you you. That's because it's not a skill set, it's not a trick, it's not a formula, it's your divine design. You are the anomaly they can't decode. You break every rule they were taught. You didn't network your way into power. You didn't manipulate your way into love. You didn't sell out to find peace. Yet you have all of that and more. They were told you had to chase, beg, compromise. But you just aligned, you healed, you trusted. You moved when God said move. That's what really messes with them. Because you're not supposed to be this unbothered, this magnetic, this protected after everything you've been through. But here you are, standing tall, shining with grace, attracting things people spend years chasing. And what's worse for them, they can't copy it. No matter how hard they try to dress like you, talk like you, post like you, or even pray like you, they still can't reproduce the outcome. Because the power isn't in the performance, it's in your spirit, and that cannot be duplicated. You were not made to fit in. You were made to disrupt. You're not the student, you're the syllabus. You're not the follower, you're the blueprint. You are what people are trying to imitate, but can't, because you don't just know something rare, you are something rare. And deep down, that's what they can't handle. You're not holding the secret. You are the secret. Number 13, they're not curious anymore. They're spiritually addicted. At first they were just curious. You were different, and they couldn't quite figure out why. You didn't move like everyone else. You weren't chasing attention, but you had it. You didn't try to impress anyone. Yet people were drawn to you. So they watched from a distance, trying to understand what it was about you that made the atmosphere shift when you walked into a space. But somewhere along the line, that curiosity turned into something deeper. Spiritual addiction. Your energy gave them a taste of something they didn't know they were starving for. Peace that didn't come from pretending. Wisdom that didn't come from books. Presence that didn't need validation. For the first time, they encountered someone who didn't just talk about alignment, but lived in it. And the effect was immediate. You didn't just catch their attention, you activated something in their soul, something ancient, something real. And once they felt that, nothing else could compare. Now, they chase your frequency like it's a drug. They check on you even when they say they're done. They listen to your words like they're gospel. They mimic your style, copy your tone, echo your phrases, hoping some of your energy might rub off on them. But it never works, because what you carry can't be faked, duplicated, or bought. You are connected to a source they can't access with shallow intentions, and that frustrates them even though they would never admit it. You're not a trend, you're not a phase, you're a spiritual shift. And once someone has experienced your energy, they can't unfeel it. They try to move on, but regular conversations feel empty. Surface-level people feel draining. Forced connections feel fake. That's what happens when someone touches real divinity. They can't go back to normal. They crave more of what you carry, but they can't find it anywhere else. Because it's not what you do, it's who you are. That's why they're not just watching anymore. They're hooked, not on your image, but on your energy. Not on your status, but on your spirit. You've become the high they can't reach, and the void they can't fill. Number 14. Your presence was the divine test, and they failed it. You didn't enter their life by accident. Your presence wasn't just casual, it was spiritual. You were sent as a divine disruption, a soul checkpoint wrapped in human form. You didn't come to entertain or to blend in. You came to offer them a chance to grow, to choose higher, to confront their ego and evolve. But they didn't recognize you, or worse, they did, and still chose to betray the very light that could have saved them. They saw your purity and chose to poison it. They witnessed your kindness and tried to exploit it. You gave them access to your wisdom, your loyalty, your energy, and instead of honoring it, they used it as a playground for their own insecurity. You were the moment the universe asked, "Are you ready for something real?" And they answered with lies, manipulation, gossip, and control. That was their answer to sacredness, and that's why they failed. You weren't just there for relationship, friendship, or support. You were the portal to the next version of their life. Had they responded with truth, with love, with humility, everything could have changed for them. But they chose jealousy over joy, control over connection, power games over purpose, and now they live in the aftermath of a test they didn't even realize they were taking, until it was too late. Now the torment isn't that you're gone. It's that your absence echoes with meaning. The void you left behind is not just emotional, it's spiritual. Every blessing you carried, every door your energy could have opened, every healing your presence made possible, is now sealed shut to them. They didn't just lose a person, they lost a divine opportunity. And here's what makes it worse. They know they fumbled something heaven sent. They know they mishandled what other people would have prayed for. And now they watch from the sidelines while you rise, not out of revenge, but by design. They're stuck in karmic loops, haunted by the realization that you were never just someone. You were the one, the test, the lesson, the shift. You didn't need revenge. Their failure was the consequence. They thought you were just another face in the crowd. But you were the divine disruption their souls secretly prayed for and their ego violently rejected. They laughed when you walked in, but now they're trembling because you walked out. You weren't sent to blend in. You were sent to expose, to elevate, to shift the very frequency of every space you entered. And while they wasted time trying to figure out what made you so different, they missed the entire truth. You were the assignment they failed. You didn't use force, you didn't beg, you didn't even retaliate. Your evolution became the rebuke, your healing became the punishment, your peace became the proof. They didn't just lose access to you, they lost access to the version of themselves they could have become through you. And now, while they spiral in confusion, obsession, and regret, you keep rising, untouched, unbothered, and undeniably chosen. Let them wonder, let them watch, let them obsess, because the truth is they were never meant to figure you out. They were meant to honor you, and since they couldn't, they now live with the consequence, watching the mystery they mocked become the miracle they'll never touch again. If this message spoke to your spirit, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and share this video with someone who needs this truth. The world needs more light, and your presence helps spread it. Until next time, stay divine, stay protected, and never shrink your power for people who can't handle your purpose. If this message hit deep and lit something in your soul, don't just scroll away. Subscribe to the channel right now. Your support helps this truth reach the people who need it most. Like the video if it spoke to you, drop a comment below, and let me know which part resonated with your journey. And share this with someone who's been doubting their power or questioning their purpose. You never know. Your share could be the breakthrough someone's been praying for. Stay tuned, stay elevated, and remember, this channel isn't just content. It's a calling. Tap in, stay protected, and I'll see you in the next one. God bless you.